Did Money in the Bank provide more questions than answers? Ron Killings shows us the importance of a connection with the fans. A new World Heavyweight Champion, but is there actually more to the story? And did we finally get a Monday Night Raw that was actually watchable? All this and more in the Golden Shovel podcast, your weekly recap of all things WWE storytelling. Let's get in there. The Golden Shovel podcast, your weekly roundup of all things WWE storytelling. And what a bumper weekend it was with Money in the Bank, Worlds Collide, and actually watchable weekly episodic television wrestling from Smackdown and Raw.
Never catch
I am once again, as always, joined by Daz and Roscoe.
My favourite part of recording these is actually right at the beginning, because I deliberately don't mute the desktop audio, so you will hear both of my fellow compadres bopping along to the tune at the beginning. How we doing?
My favourite bit's my favourite bit's when it's finished and it's the water. Right, we've had to do a bit of shuffling this week because there's that much going on. We'll try to figure out the best way to get all the information made across. So NXT's bumped right away at the end, and we'll decide if we've got time or not. But we will start with a really quick, brief overview of what happened on SmackDown with resident SmackDown correspondent Dazzler. What we got?
Yes, we will keep it short on SmackDown. We're obviously itching to get into Money in the Bank. Probably the only thing to lean in on is we've been quite critical of Friday Night SmackDown ahead of PLEs, and it almost feels like they don't know how to book those shows with that show to follow. This one has probably been the best so far. There is a small criticism which we'll come to in a moment. The only match really worth highlighting was the women's tag match. It was always the intrigue going into Money in the Bank, the 3 versus 3. Nice bit of foreshadowing in that tag match with the ending. Poor Roxanne, unfortunately, eats a bit of everything before she takes the pin. But no, I actually thought all 6 of them looked good in the match. It's a good heel ending. So yeah, it was a good show. The other thing we've been critical of, however, is that the first 20 minutes, half an hour of Raw actually became the first 20 minutes, half an hour of SmackDown, and then the middle 20 minutes of SmackDown, and then also the end of SmackDown. It became Friday Night Rollins on Friday, funnily enough. So we know it's a one-off. Well, we assume it's a one-off. Once we get to Raw, we might move away from that. But yeah, I'll be honest, I thought it was a good kind of take-home show to take into a PLE. I'm intrigued to see where things go from this Friday, off the back of what we've seen. But yeah, not a lot to talk about from SmackDown. I'm just really itching to get into Saturday night.
Aye, it was a fun setup show for a Saturday night PLE. Ross, I know I've been prior warned not to bring too much of SmackDown to you because your schedule is not allowed for much watching, but is it just as simple as booking the Friday night to be a little bit chaotic, using your favourite phrase?
It, like, when everyone at home and everyone in the arena knows that the thing that they are watching and in attendance for isn't the main event of that week, you can just throw caution to the wind a little bit and just have a little bit of fun with it. It's kind of like the chaos you normally get on like the Raw after Mania. It's that level where like everyone, at least Den's invested because it's like, okay, what's the fallout? I think stuff like that works. Like you have to leave wrestling to be fun sometimes, and it's nice that they've done that rather than, you know, as Daz was alluding to earlier, when they get to these pre-PLE SmackDowns, they just shrug their shoulders and they just don't have a clue how to book.
They just play it overly safe.
Yeah.
They do. They just play it overly safe, book a boring show in the hope that nobody gets hurt, nobody gets injured. They actually played the line really well on Friday night.
So,
I totally agree. I just thought it was, I mean, I used the word fun. It was just a bit of fun. There was nothing serious. It was, and I think obviously that sticks out as a 6-woman tag match, which will take us really, really nicely into the opening match of Money in the Bank in a second. After we just plug the fact that we have revamped some of the socials, you will now find us on Twitter at Golden Shovel Pod. We've just revamped our Twitter page to be wrestling only because there's a reasonably strong community of the a recently strong part of the IWC on Twitter compared to some of the rest of the socials. So at Golden Shovel Pod on Twitter, and at thenerdfandemic on everywhere else.
For those interested, I've already started the personal attacks on Dave Meltzer, so feel free to tune in for more of that. There will be weekly updates.
The opening match, Money in the Bank, for me, match of the night. I thought it had the best storytelling with the best spots. And I'll get to some of the detail in a little bit. We did discuss last week whether we were going to get that 3v3 rookies versus vets on the Friday night. We did go with the heels versus faces, although I'm not convinced that Julia's going to be a heel in that feud with Selena. But they did tease the rookies versus vets right at the start of the match. I thought it was great. For me, it was just a bit of foreshadowing. It was a little bit of just showing what's happening. And bear in mind, we're talking about the vets. Like, I think Rhea Ripley's still mid-20s, late 20s, and Alexa's 31. I think Naomi's slightly older, so this isn't even vets as in end of their careers. This is just vets that have been around for a long time. Daz, I'll come to you first. There was some great spots. Obviously, we went 3 different ways on the winner. It could have went anywhere. But just talk me through your thoughts on the actual match itself. A little bit of storytelling, a little bit of the spots.
I'll be honest, it's something I've been, when I think about the women's Money in the Bank ladder matches, what I feel has been missing probably over the last couple has been those big spots. And if you compare the spots in the women's match to the ones in the men's match, I actually think they were considerably better for the most part. The Jewel Destroyers is just
So good.
It's incredible. It is incredible. It's pushing the envelope for women's wrestling in WWE. I know that other promotions do stuff like this quite often. It's nice to see WWE continue to push the envelope when it comes to women's wrestling. In terms of storytelling, I thought it was beautiful.
It was.
There was an awful lot of storytelling in it. The 2 rookies, and I'm not putting Steph in as a rookie because if you were sitting down to watch that for the first time, you'd have thought Steph was a stick-on main eventer. If you were to
They all
pick out
laughed.
the
They
2
all
rookies, I
laughed, to be
think,
fair.
yeah, and I think you can pick out the 2 rookies just by looking at it. And I thought that Julia and Roxanne both looked very good in the match. I still think the wrong person wins, for the way they've been booked on TV recently. I think they could have given it to someone else, but we know that Hunter doesn't necessarily like the model for Money in the Bank. So look, I don't have I'm not grumbling that Naomi won. I said it the other night when we recorded. I thought she was my winner up until a couple of nights before the show, and I really sat and began to think about it. So I'm interested to see where they take it, how she cashes in, when she cashes in. There is a bit of intrigue in hers. So yeah, I thought overall it probably it's hard in terms of, would I say it's match of the night? I think there's maybe one that pips it, but if it get given match of the night, I really wouldn't be I wouldn't be bothered by that at all.
I'm totally in agreement. It's match of the night because I think it's got the most memorable bits. But as I'm starting to think back, maybe there's other elements of some of other matches that would put them over the top. I'm going to come to Ross on the point that Daz briefly made there, and it was the question I was going to ask you. It's been heavily rumoured, and I'm pretty sure he's come out and said it on a couple of occasions that Triple H isn't a huge fan of Money in the Bank. It sounds like it's just too restrictive in terms of booking. You have to do something with it. We've obviously asked the question over the last few months on pod, off pod, as to whether it should go back to just being a match somewhere rather than just being a standalone PLE, because you have to do something with a standalone PLE. Again, looking ahead to the men's match, has he just picked the 2 people that are already in title pictures because it's safe booking, which not criticising, but it's safe.
Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it? Like, don't get me wrong, we discussed at length last week that we thought that Naomi had a really good chance. We discussed at length that Rollins was probably going to be the one who would take the men's, and that's fine, but for me, if you are going to do that continually, and obviously we know there's another one next year, 2027, we don't know at this stage where that will go. if you're going to constantly do this, you are better off just scrapping it entirely and pushing the match somewhere else. As much as I quite like the spectacle, it's fun, but
Money,
yeah.
Money in the Bank got over as a concept, and I mean, you might not believe this, but that was actually the 16th standalone Money in the Bank event, which
Wow.
doesn't feel like it
No.
is. But I'm sure I read that the other day. I'm just going to double check actually because I've got the page open here. It was the 16th annual Money in the Bank event. Yep, so there's been 16 of them. I did not think it was as much as that. What I think doesn't help is we've talked about the congestion in the PLE calendar post Mania,
Yeah.
but the fact that we've jumped straight into more multi-man qualifiers for a King of the Ring tournament, which will lead to a match for a title on a PLE. We'll get into the semantics of that on Raw. We've went from qualifying for an opportunity to have an opportunity to qualifying for an opportunity to have an opportunity. You've got to pull the trigger on some people. Perhaps more relevant than the men's match. I think Naomi. I think I'm fine. You can disagree with this. I think I'm comfortable if one of the two is a safe pick. I think when you pick the two of them being safe, like I'm glad that Rollins didn't cash in on Raw, but it makes no sense for him not to have cashed in when he's got so much help. Why would he wait?
You're like, if
It
that's
doesn't make
not
any sense.
the part where the time he's going to do it, like when is it? You know?
Yeah. So the women's match, solid, strong, perhaps a little bit let down by Triple H's personal opinion on Money in the Bank, and I think from the golden shovel to him, just get it the fuck. If you don't like it, just get rid of it. If the King of the Ring, what's better for you?
It's one of the stipulation matches that doesn't need its own pay-per-view, and I think obviously it's a specific match type, but I think it's also the same for the likes of Hell in a Cell. It doesn't need its own pay-per-view. It's just better if you can just book those matches as and when you want. They feel more special than you roll up to Hell in a Cell and you think, oh great, we've got 2 Hell in a Cell matches. It's the Money in the Bank pay-per-view is 2 6-man or women ladder matches, and then it's like the issue we had with this PLE was, what does the rest of the show look like? And we'll come on to the rest of the show, and it was surprisingly better than I expected. But
in that 5-match event with 20 entrances, I'd love to know the exact timings. I'm sure we could find them, but it was long. It was a bit of a slog coming in there. We shout out Sid the Sloth on our TikTok page for getting involved. He said he didn't think the women's match was particularly great. Could have been better. There wasn't too many wow moments, and I don't disagree. Maybe outside the double destroyer, double code red, but the storytelling was there, which is also what we're looking at. But he did praise Dom versus Octagon Jr. Ross, come to you first on this one. We're massive Dom Mysterio fans here.
Oh, yeah.
We're all aboard that fucking rocket, and we have been from the day Frog Splash Brock Lesnar trying to help his dad win the title. But it did go 4:55. It felt shorter.
Yeah.
Do we think Octagon Jr. was just struggling after Worlds Collide, or was it just to establish Dom for potential future AAA appearances?
Maybe because it was weird. It wasn't a bad 5 minutes either. Like it was for what it was. It was a very decent match. But by reading like the opinions of people who know a little bit more about that scene, certainly than I do, even they were a little bit surprised that Octagon Jr. was the one that they went for. And there's apparently one or two other guys, unfortunately the names escape me, that they thought even pre Worlds Collide that would have actually been the better shout for a match like that. But obviously the only reason it could have been done is purely just to have a little bit of a, we've got some of your talent on yours. You guys can come in here and have a little bit of a sort of handshake, have that moment, and then Dom can go on. Octagon Jr. will go back to do whatever happened on Worlds Collide. Apologies, we didn't watch it. There was just too much wrestling, right? I'm sure it was great.
Speak for yourself. I watched it.
Right.
Speak for yourself. I've watched it.
Would this have been better off as a tag match of some sort? With maybe the Judgment Day, just to establish a couple of the AAA guys, but as soon as this match was announced and it was announced for a title, it was only going one way.
I definitely agree. There's no way Octagon Junior was going to take the title off Dom. It was never going to happen. I agree. At the time when when I was watching Worlds Collide, and I actually really liked the way that they announced the match was going to be happening at Worlds Collide. I thought we're either going to get a really good 10, 15 minutes of lucha wrestling. Or to your point, Ross, it didn't feel like a bad 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's the joy of lucha wrestling, is that 5 minutes is still an enjoyable 5 minutes. I
That's
do
what she
think it would have
said.
been better served as a tag match. What I will say though is I now see the sense in it and why they booked Octagon Junior in there and not one of the maybe more established guys in AAA, because I don't know if you've seen this, but apparently WWE have filed a trademark for the King of the Luchadors, and
Okay.
everybody suggested it was going to be for El Grande Americano. However, I don't know if you've seen Dom's recent Instagram post. He posted a picture of himself with a black mask on, and it's captioned King of the Luchadors. So I'm really hoping that we're actually maybe going to get Dom on AAA or AAA on Raw, and we're going to get more of this because
Interesting.
it elevates Dom so much. It puts him in the guys we really know how to work, and it just showcases his actual talent. For the 5 minute match that it was, I thought it was actually really good. I do think it's hard to wrestle 2 matches in a couple of hours, especially at the pace that they guys do it. So Octagon Junior probably was just feeling the effects of AAA, but I actually thought it was really, really good. I can't wait for Dom versus Mr. Iguana. I honestly,
I know.
that guy, it's like it's like we buried our truth, and Mr. Iguana was born from the ashes. It's just
episode.
perfect. I'm so here for it. I'm locked in. I've never watched AAA in my life, and I popped for Mr. Iguana. I popped for him. See when he flicks.
I was going to
and
ask that. How does he do that every? How? Like I get it, but surely you can't
there
predict
must be
it being
some
perfect every time.
array of magnets or something.
Magic.
Don't ruin the illusion. Just enjoy it. Yeah.
I just a bit more intrigue for me, but we have always said that Dominic, would he eventually be Prince Mysterio or would he be Rey Mysterio a third? Would there be something? Maybe this is the start of. I don't know if he can now put a mask on him. I feel as though you shouldn't, but maybe that's the start of it. Is Dom now on that path to world title?
I wouldn't
Early.
hate it.
I'm talking 2-3 years, but
I
surely.
think this is where he's got to make his statement. It's kind of similar to Lyra, when they've given her the IC title, is go and prove you can hang with top talent. Dom's still very much waiting on his first top talent as a for the IC title. He's still waiting on an AJ Styles, for example, to run a proper program and be put over by him. So I think this is definitely the road to get there. But I don't think there's any hiding for the fact that you can see the difference in Dom from 12 months ago to now. Like, where was he hiding that spring, like that diving DDT? Where has he been hiding that? Because he just all of a sudden pulled it out on TV, and it's exceptional. So it's clear they're still working on his in-ring stuff, because between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, he does a whole lot of standing at ringside rather than wrestling. Now he's got the belt. He's going to wrestle full time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where he goes. I personally think he will be a world champion 12 to 18 months' time.
I like it.
That's early. That's what Ellen are doing for, but it's hard to disagree. You have just set up a nice segue from one IC title to another.
That's why I'm here.
I think I've said every week in the podcast that I find myself wanting to talk about the women's matches because they've just been brilliant for the last three months. They've so invested in the story. This is one where I know both you guys picked Becky. I picked Lyra more so I wasn't sure the path forward after that, but it now seems clear.
Yep.
And the weird thing is, last week, Ross, I'm sure you said, and we agreed that this felt like it went just a week too far.
Mm.
And yet on Monday, I found myself this morning watching it back. I found myself going, I could go one more of this. When Lyra came out, I'm like, the title change has actually reinvigorated the feud. I know Bailey's now there as of Monday. Spoiler alert. We'll get to that. But this was I thought it was a fucking good wrestling match.
It was.
It was a really good wrestling match. A really good finish that kept them both looking strong. I mean, they went 15 minutes, which, and for the vast majority of time, you did not get 15 minutes as a women's singles wrestling match.
Yeah.
Daz, you first on this one. Does this feud still have legs?
Yes, match of the night for me. I think in terms of a wrestling match, it was absolutely excellent. I'm critical of Becky Lynch and her promo work. In ring, she has a great talent. There is no doubt about that. Lyra's proven she's a talent in ring. She's now proven she can do the mic work. So I do think this is still got legs. I said it in last week's pod that I think this does go again for Evolution. How that's made up, I actually think the Bailey return might be a couple of weeks too early.
Yes.
Now for where I was. So I think it's maybe a couple of weeks too early. So I don't know if it'll be that triple threat that I alluded to, if that's how this is going to work out. Or is it going to be Lyra versus Becky with Bailey in Lyra's corner? Help her take the title back, and then it sets up a 1v1 at SummerSlam and lets Lyra move on. Yeah, it was match of the night for me. I mean, they could have wrestled for 45 minutes, and I think I would have still been gripped by it. It's good storytelling, good wrestling, and a title change at PLE. I can't really ask for much more.
Good ending in terms of Cole obviously selling the Becky having a fistful of Lyra's ring gear. The trunks, which, all right, is fine, but it's just basic heel work.
I think it shows there's more to come for this with a finish of that type. Yeah.
Ross, I've seen a few comments online saying that no matter your opinion of Becky, whether you believe in the Becky Hogan, and to be fair, the way they've steered into it has probably made the feud. The WWE women's divisions are better for having her full time.
Like you, everything about from like the music hitting to the end of the segment, like the fans are invested in what's been put out there, be it to boo or cheer. And she is, like, when she's in ring, she can go, and she's, to be fair, ever since she kind of broke through, and then the genesis of the man onwards, it's just been a joy to watch. Obviously, you don't know how much longer you're going to have her go because of, their family situation. Just in general, people do want to like take a step back and whatever else. So it is very much of enjoy it while she's here, because it might not be for much longer. And yeah, maybe if our promo work was ever slightly better in ring, then Das could not say a thing. He'd be just like, "This is perfect." But that's
it's
it.
Not so much. It's not so much the promo work. It's just it comes across as a little bit screamy, shouty. You're like,
That is my issue.
it's just
It's
dial
just
it
whiny.
back.
It's just whiny. Yeah.
But it works from a heel perspective because you're like,
It does.
shut up. And obviously Lyra attacked her post match, so the feud's obviously still got legs. I thought it was done last week. I was like, just have this match and move it on. That's why I picked Lyra, because I felt like Becky winning the title meant it had to go again. Now I'm like, okay, I can see it. I can see a path, but just don't ruin it. Don't have. See if neither of them appeared next week on Raw, I'd be happy with that. But see if they had this, or obviously with Bailey come back, it might be different. But see if they had the same promo again, where they just shout at each other for 5 minutes. I'd be like, that's the bit that we were getting fed up listening to. It's been the best program on telly for the last 2 months. They've had a proper build with good matches. Whereas in the men's side of things, and we'll talk about Gunther in the Raw section, we had I'm announcing my title match, and after the next 2 PLEs and the Monday Night Raw randomly in Phoenix, it's like, did he feel big fight energy? Whereas this has felt big fight energy the whole way through.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So definitely better having Becky on the brand. She's a champ. She's a heel. She's playing the role pretty well. Lyra still looks good. I'm interested to see where it goes.
Awful lot of heel champs. An awful lot of heels holding briefcases. It's interesting.
And that's going to make the Raw conversation so interesting. And that's why we cut SmackDown right down and we parked NXT away to the end to decide if we've got time for it, because we've got a hell of a lot to talk about when it comes to Raw. Men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I enjoyed it in isolation. I'm like, there was bits I enjoyed. LA Knight still massively over. Penta still massively over. The turn from Jacob on Solo. The question as to why Andrade was even there in the first place. Give Gable his flowers and say he might have been the WWE MVP over the weekend with the 2 matches he was involved in. But there's 3 things that let this down for me, and 3 things that I'm just stuck with come the end of it. The first one, as we've already discussed, is Rollins didn't need it. Rollins would have been champion without it. I'd rather see him win King of the Ring and somebody else have the Money in the Bank. Looking at TikTok comments again, Joe again says the same thing. He had LA Knight done as a win. That actually leads me into my second point. I feel as though this has just killed LA Knight. He won't be a world champion. I think his persona fits the briefcase with the loud promos and being on TV every week and just showing up and annoying the champion. But the thing that totally killed this match was the interference bit lasting 10 plus minutes. As we talked about this on Sunday morning, the 10 minutes of that killed the match. And I'm going to just throw it to you and say, you've already said to us what you think your goal and silver is going to be, but the 10 minutes contributed to this so heavily, didn't it?
Definitely. I think that the match itself was good. The build and the pacing in the match was good. It was all leading to what we did speak about. It was going to be an inevitable Seth win, even though we didn't necessarily want it to be. The interference was always coming. I'm going to be really critical of the camera work. We basically missed Braun's spear.
Yeah.
It cuts to him as he is going through.
Mm-hmm.
The interference takes a hell of a long time. I understand that they needed to build Fatu and JC Mateo also coming out to the ring. The issue I've got with the entire, just it felt very amateurish, was this fucking drone cam they've got. I hate it. You can see guys just propped up against barricades, just watching,
Waiting
they're
for
actually
the
just
spot.
watching what's happening in the ring to wait for their spot. You can see refs talking to guys on the ground, telling them when to move.
You actually seen it in the
The
women's
worst thing
match as
for
well
me,
with Stephanie
yeah,
Fakir. Like you can see her being told to move at one point
yeah.
on that
One of
camera.
the real issue I've got is arguably the best spot in the men's Money in the Bank match was ruined by the camera. The Chad Gable climbing one ladder onto another ladder, and then it's just you can see
They're showing you.
everything that's wrong with it.
They're showing you Penta just pretending to try and unhook a briefcase for far too
Yeah,
long. Just cut the
Penta's
camera away.
like this. He's holding onto a briefcase and just staring, waiting for Chad Gable. You can actually see Seth Rollins holding the bottom of the ladder and tipping it to what. And I get they need to be safe workers. I'm not saying they're doing it wrong, but what I'm saying is it's like a magician. Don't give away the game.
Yeah, I
It's
absolutely.
fine if you're in attendance because only so many people can see that. You need to be really front row to be able to see that.
What you said, Ross, was true. You could see it in the women's match, but it wasn't as bad. And the reason for that is that 10 minutes of interference meant there was people out the ring and the ring here. And the only way to capture everything was with the drone camera, which meant you also saw just wee heats popping up like that, trying to see what the spot was.
Everything, it was just,
it
it
was
totally
so
killed the
disappointing.
match for me. It did. It totally killed the momentum of the match. And
your big in-ring spot was the destroyer onto the ladder, which was just a repeat of what we saw 2 hours before, which I know can happen, but just do anything else. Like just do any other spot.
I feel like the men's match actually lacked big spots considering the people that were in it.
Yep.
I kind of also kind of get it as well because everybody got ran through with the interference, so they needed to make sure people were available for the spot in their eyes. But you've got guys like Penta, Andrade, as much as he's not been booked on TV, still an incredible athlete. There's so much more they could have done in that match with these guys. I'll be honest, this was probably the worst match of the night for me. And I include the 5 minute Dom Octagon Jr. in that. I think the good pacing that they set out early was totally undone by this interference. The face turn. I'm not even going to call it a face turn as if Jacob Fatu was a heel before this because
He was a
he's been
tweener, really.
babyface basically since he arrived. Do you know what I mean? Even though he's supposed to be a bad guy, the crowd love him. They absolutely eat him up. So, I actually think Solo's the one who's turned face in this, and it's just not happened yet. It's just not come to light. But Solo's the one that's turned face here. Yeah, worst match of the night for me.
Most disappointing match of the night for me. I don't know if I can say worst, but most disappointing. It had so much potential. Ross, you picked Rollins, but I know you're not really even that happy with that. And alluding to what Daz said there about the Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa situation, we're half expecting that match at SummerSlam. Assuming it's SummerSlam, it could also be Night of Champions. Did this happen just too early, based on the fact that it doesn't need a build? The build's been there, and now they might be in this bit of game where they have to drag out for a few weeks longer than you really want them to.
Because, ideally you could have had a turn 2 weeks later, 1 week later the matches, the next night the matches, and I think we would have all been like, okay, we're ready for this. You're now going to have a situation, as you say, we either drag it out over various episodes that's going to frustrate us, or you need to write one of them off TV for like 3 weeks, and then they'll just come back anyway. And that's never as satisfying as just pulling the trigger in the right times.
I have an interesting theory about this, right? And I know what these guys are like long-term booking. Solo is now Solo and JC Mateo and Jacob Fatu have separated. Big Jim doesn't have a program. Jay drops the World Heavyweight title. Roman Reigns is due back on TV, as is Tongalo and Tama Tonga. Are we going to run this back? Are we going to run back the bloodline? Is that where this is headed?
I'll save my answer to that until we do Raw, because there seems to be a little bit coming out about JS's situation post Raw that might clarify some of that.
Yeah.
But I can't see that being. We can do about talk this in a future podcast, but I really hope we don't get War Games this year. I feel as though Survivor Series needs a break for War Games, because it does feel like sometimes they have to pigeonhole in a match that suits, whereas they could just go 5-on-5. Traditional Survivor Series match. Just finishing up this match. Ross, were you happy with the right prediction on Rollins?
I mean, I have an ego the same as anyone else, so I was delighted to get the pick right. But with the way the match was going, and then you have that moment right at the end where LA Knight's getting up the ladder, and you're like, finally, they're giving the guy a moment, and then they just take it away from him, and then he just kind of, Rollins looks around, and he's like, oh, I'll just... Then still slowly ascends the ladder, even though he... Just get up the damn thing. We know you've won it. Just tell us that you've won it. It's frustrating because we know he's the safe one, which is good in a way, but he was always going to get at least one, if not two title shots, maybe even like 3 between now and the end of the year if he's not winning them inexplicably. You could have just went all out with it and just seen what would happen. If you could have just gave it to LA Knight, you could have even gave it to Penta. I mean, why not? Like, why not do that? Because you just know the crowd are going to love that, and then just let it run for a bit. It's a little bit of a maybe a missed opportunity. Maybe
I think it's just Triple H's, and maybe after what happened with Austin Theory, because Triple H became head booker essentially partway after he got the briefcase, but before it was cashed in. Maybe he's just decided that he's going to play it safe, because if you get it wrong, it's too messy, which is
That's what I
fine.
was just going to say. I think, see, if you look at a guy like Penta or LA Knight who are so over, if you give them the briefcase, I said this in last week's pod, nobody's taking it off Cena with the briefcase unless it was CM Punk. That was never going to happen. And I don't see Gunter dropping it to cash in now.
No.
Jade, 100%. But if you've got two guys who are so over, you essentially kill them by having them lose their cash in. And
The other
they
thing
would
is
not
that
take that risk certainly with Penta. I think LA Knight's finished as a main event talent. We've covered that. But Penta is a world champion, and I think if they put the briefcase on him, it would have been too early for it to be a legitimate world title run.
That's
you
fair.
also really pigeonhole someone's booking for the next 12 months because you know they're not winning the Rumble, you know they're not winning King of the Ring contenders matches. You kind of like they end up overly 50-50 booked where they have to lose too many matches to keep them away from certain things. We've seen it, and maybe it's overly safe, but I'd like to have seen maybe a face win one of them and a face who might have cashed it in the less traditional sense by saying, I'm cashes in for a match next week on Raw or at this event in 3 weeks' time. Not just the opportunity. The problem is, as soon as they realised that was a way, I mean, rightly so, Edge at the time was a heel. He said this is how Edge should cash in the Money in the Bank after Elimination Chamber in 2006. So, but once they did that, there's no other way to do it because why would you waste it? But that only really works if you're a heel.
Yep.
Unless you're a face and it's a super heel that you're cashing in on. Takes into the last match, and I'm aware of the time we're going, so I'm already been looking at my Raw notes and seeing how we can streamline this. I've really enjoyed this match, and I'm glad I'm saying that because I've not been massively enamoured with Cody just coming back and getting involved. I don't think he should dethrone John Cena. I've not enjoyed a lot of Cena's matches, despite the fact that I really want to, because he is my goat, and he always will be. The things that stand out to me, Ross, will come to you first on this. We'll come to you first on the match, and then we'll come to Daz on the interference. How good is Logan Paul at wrestling? Like that moonsault and the drone shot thing.
Oh, it was so good, man. Like even
Cinema.
again, straightens the life out of me that the algorithm on TikTok knows that I don't mind seeing it. But I don't know if you've seen the TikTok that he puts up where he takes the practice clip, and then cuts it perfectly in.
Cuts it.
Beautiful. Like it is a thing of beauty, and it still rankles and pisses me off that he is so damn good at it. The match was really, really decent. I think that the pacing was solid. I think they managed to get a little bit out of Cena, which we've been concerned throughout this that they just wasn't actually able to do it in the ring. I think they did it this time, which is nice. I was like you and Darren that we were all a little bit skeptical that this could even work. But fair credit to them. I really enjoyed it and I didn't look away from the TV. And I think ultimately that's what they're after, right? So no complaints from me.
And I alluded to this in the hook intro at the start. The return of Ron Killings.
Yep.
It just shows how important, like no matter what you do in wrestling, if you have a connection with the crowd, that's bigger, almost bigger and more important than anything else.
It really is.
What a moment, does.
100%. There's quite a lot to chew on in this match, and the only thing I want to say before I talk about Ron Killings is we've been really critical of John's booking, especially in ring, since his return. See, when this retirement run is finished, I think we'll look back on it and see they gave him that 2.5 months to shake the ring rust and get up to speed. See, by the end of his run, he will be wrestling matches correctly. It will be proper wrestling matches. And I'm really looking forward to getting there. And you're right, Ross, we've seen glimpses of it Saturday night. It's the best John's looked since he came back. I'm not a big Cody fan. I'm not enamoured by the guy. He tells a good story, and that's important for John's run. I think the two of them lack chemistry in the ring, so it was a really nice element to have Logan Paul and JSO in the match. So taking us back to the interference, the return of Ron Killings, the pop was huge, and I'm actually gonna comment on possibly the hottest thing in the IWC right now. I think Triple H's comments have been taken out of turn in terms of it's all part of the show. The only person who ever said that R-Truth had been released was R-Truth. WWE hadn't confirmed it was a release. They hadn't released an official thing on it to say that his contract had expired. My understanding is that Ron Killing's contract was still active. So I do believe that R-Truth's interference was always booked as part of this show. But I don't think the contract is a work. I think that genuinely was, we're not renewing your contract, and the fans did put that pressure on TKO to reconnect, and that he's re-signed. We'll get to Raw, and I'm really excited to see where this goes based on his promo on Raw. I'm really excited to see what comes of this. But the pop was huge. I actually couldn't work out who it was at first. Seeing Tilly goes in the ring and he attacks him, and the shirt lifts up, and you can see, because at first I thought, is it Braun Breaker or is it somebody of that ilk? But then when you see that the guy's black, you think, oh my god, is that actually him? It was nice. I've not actually had an interference like that. Try to think of the last one where I've actually been genuinely surprised to see them. But in hindsight, if you look at the stories I've told over the past 4 weeks, it stares you in the fucking face as well. Do you know what I mean? That he wasn't finished. The way that match finished, and it's perfect booking to put Cena out with the title. That's perfect.
Do you think that the issue with Cody and Cena's chemistry is as simple as they're just both naturally faces, and that makes it difficult? Is that oversimplifying it, or is it part of it? Or?
I don't know. I actually think that the issue I've got is that Cody is a specific type of wrestler. I mean, John's always been labelled 5 moves of doom, right? He's always been one of the guys. Cody isn't, right? But they're different eras almost, and they clash, and it doesn't look good because whenever you get these different eras facing off with each other, they're often a bit shit, if we're honest. And I don't know what it is, but I feel like Cody's going the same way he did in AEW. He's really stale. The fans don't know whether to cheer him or boo him, and that's not because he's a heel or because he's a face. I just think they've actually realised that when this guy's not chasing the world title with a huge draw, what does he actually offer? Because since he's maybe one joke, he's told one joke since he come. Like I really don't know what he brings to this feud, and I'm glad that we're booking Cena and Punk next, and we're not taking Cody Rhodes and John Cena to Saudi Arabia, because I just don't want to see it again. I know it's inevitable in this run that the two of them are going to face off again for the title. I just don't want it, and I'm going to be really, really pissed off if Cody's the one that takes the title from him, because there's 3 or 4 guys in the queue in front of him, in my opinion.
It's not even the queue in front for me. It's just the fact that Cody had the biggest rub in the business in the last few years getting it for Roman, so you don't need it for Cena. Somebody else can get that for Cena. You've already alluded to it, so we're just going to jump straight into Monday Night Raw. Cena's best performance, Ross in the ring, arguably then his best performance on the mic.
Yeah,
to open that show. And is this match going to happen in Saudi?
Well, I have thoughts
Punk
on
going to
that,
Saudi
but I guess I'll start. Yeah, I know that it's this opening segment that we kind of criticised recently, but it worked. I think it's because he probably has somebody like Punk to go up against, where Punk's always been known. Put a mic in front of him, you'll always get something good. It was a really damn good opening segment. Punk's throwback to the pipe bomb promo was quite a nice little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The back and forth, and then obviously I'll give you the match, but it's in Saudi, and everyone knows and everyone understands the implication. And I think this is probably the first time during the ruining wrestling tour that I'm like, I get it now. Because that to me, in the storytelling sense, is I am going to ruin wrestling. Because you either have to take this title shot and go somewhere where you know you do not want to go and it's against your beliefs, or you have to turn down the title shot and the chance at the belt. And either way, I win. I thought that like microcosm of storytelling was absolutely fantastic. I loved that.
If Cena makes Punk give it up, it's just another part of the tool in the tool belt for the storytelling down the line. The reason that the opening segment works, is just we want this match, don't we? This is the one match that we really all want to see after John Cena, CM Punk. They're arguably each other's greatest feuds of all time, and that Money in the Bank match 2011 is as good of a wrestling match with the storytelling as we've ever seen. Your thoughts? Are we getting it in Saudi, or is this just going to be the start of the setup for the inevitable payoff?
I can't see Punk compromising on his personal beliefs for a title match that he knows, especially one where he's not going to win, right? Because we know the Saudis they want John to retain the title in Saudi Arabia, obviously. I don't see him selling it. There's too much at stake for him on a personal level for him to actually. He won't go to Saudi. I don't know. I know we spoke about him taking a wee bit of time off. Is he going to be written off TV? I think it'll be John and Ron Killings. That's what I think it'll be in Saudi Arabia. I think it'll be John versus Ron Killings, and I think we're going to get a very good wrestling match as opposed to what we got at Saturday night mid event. So that's where I think it's headed. I cannot see Punk compromising and going to Saudi Arabia after he's so openly been outspoken against it, and it kills his character. The whole ethos of CM Punk is I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for wrestling. I'm in it for the purity of the business. If it goes to Saudi and compromises that, he's away for a paycheck. So
the only thing I thought they let down was the fact that Rollins had to appear at the end of the segment. No, I understand he's got the briefcase and Cena's on Raw, so you obviously show face, but I'm concerned that Rollins stable is just going to go stale very quickly because they've not done anything. They have to start doing something. But
we now know the program for him, though. We know the program for Rollins now.
We seem to know the program now. I thought it was a great opening segment. That we just want it. And I'll be interested to see how they manage that because Cena's not going to appear twice a week, assuming his dates left is correct. So
about 19.
19. So is he going to appear on Raw or SmackDown? I'd imagine he'll just appear on SmackDown, and Punk will need to do the rest of the stuff. I'll just run through a couple of quick hits for Raw that we don't need to get into too much detail. Looking at my notes here, so AJ versus Gable, I thought was a great match, but I just really struggled to see where this fits. AJ's been feels like AJ's losing every week, and after arguably being the weekend's MVP, Gable then it's a pretty quick loss to AJ Styles. Now, obviously, if they want AJ going after Dom, they have to become somewhat strong, but
Gable wasn't the guy to take the pin.
I'm really struggling to see where the Gable or Grand Americano pair is going to come. The women's fatal four-way, Roxanne got a really good strong win, that kind of sneaky pin, but a really solid match. Everybody looks strong. That's the women's division on Raw that we want to see. But let's just probably pin that because I've got one thing I want to bring up. But I'll go back to the main points. We're going to assume Nikki Bella is back to do some sort of program for Evolution with Liv to keep her away, which keeps Liv's away from the titles. I think that's a really good, solid feud. But what about the women's tag titles? Is it going to lead to the Bella Twins? I doubt it. I don't see Brie coming back, but the titles just need to disappear because it's just pointless if they're not being defended. So to me, that's the quick hits. If I just go back to the women's fatal four-way and ask the question to you guys, are we concerned that every week we just get 10 seconds at Io, who's supposed to be our champion, that's now 2 or 3 weeks in a row where we've got 10 seconds backstage and that's it. Are you risking burying your champion there? Because this division's went from this is quite boring, SmackDown's beating it out to okay, I see it. You know, you've done a really good job with Rhea. She's looking good in the ring, but we're not going Rhea Hogan. Roxanne get the type of win she should be getting as a kind of sneaky upcomer. But why is Io just saying thank you to Nikki Bella backstage when Io was a champ in Japan when Nikki Bella was starting? I'm confused as to what's happening with Io Sky. Does anybody have anything to offer to? It's not even a question anymore. It's just me saying that. It's just confusing me.
It's as good as mine.
I think I know what's going to happen, what's coming for Rio, and it's the Rocket. I think that is our program. It's going to be her and Steph. It's just going to have to be. And Rio's the perfect person to beat her and still make her look strong. I don't know if Evolution's too soon. Actually, I think it's probably the perfect distance to help build a small one-off for Steph. Put her in the limelight so she can hang up there, and then because these fatal four ways, I can't say I'm looking forward to Smackdowns all that much. Although I think the tag picture is answered by what's been ruined, almost. I think it will be a Kabuki Warriors reunion. I think that's what it will be. I think it'll be Asuka and Kairi versus Liv and Raquel for the titles. I think that's where it's headed. But no, I agree. Io's not been booked particularly great, even in the time that she's been champion, to be honest.
Which is a shame.
Even that stuff in the middle of Rhea
so
and Bianca for a long time. It's just she's not had a proper. She's not flourished as champion this time around, and I'm waiting for it.
Ross, the Becky Bailey Lyra segment was a slightly more coherent promo from Becky. Lyra got a great pop, great reaction, but she did look genuinely confused. So she's either a very good actress or was not expecting Bailey to attack from behind.
Yeah, I dug that. Like, that is definitely someone who either has absolutely no idea what's going on or has absolutely every idea what's going on. And yeah, no, I think this is going to be really interesting to kind of see. Like, we've been kind of calling for Bailey to come back for a few weeks now. At the time when we thought that the feud had just maybe petered a little bit too much, and then now she's actually probably came in hindsight at the absolute perfect moment.
Yeah.
To then just make us go, okay, and we've sort of stood up again and watched it. Really, really intrigued to see where this goes. And again, this is the women's division just doing what it's been doing for a long time now. It's just, on the whole, certainly delivering.
Yeah, the Becky Lyra stuff, the concern was is that the out of the ring promo stuff was just getting a little bit repetitive. But the fact is that in the ring with the matches, be able to keep it going. And as you say, I think the Bailey returns we thought was a week or two too late. It's probably, in fairness to the people making the decisions, just happened at the exact right time. Daz, will come back to you because you've already mentioned it, and I know you're waiting to die. You're dying. You're waiting to die. Fuck's sake!
I'm waiting to die.
You're waiting / dying.
We're all waiting to die. So I wasn't expecting to get deep on this pod.
Dying to talk about this. What does a serious run killings look like? Because I watched TNA back in the day, and I'm on to this.
I'm all in on a serious run, and I mean that. I am so in for this run.
He can fucking go, by the way. He can go.
I don't care if it lasts, if his new deal is 6 months, 3 months, 6 weeks. I am all in on this Ron Killings run. The series booking is what he's needed for a long time. And the promo where he cuts the dreads, everything about it is great. It's just, he captivates every time he speaks. Doesn't matter if he's telling jokes, talking to little Jimmy, or if he's trying to be serious. Everybody pays attention. I'm just concerned that he's going to get lost in all the talent they've got. I can't see it because he's the hottest. He's a top merch seller right now, and I would love to see him win a world title. It's just there's just there's too many people in front of him, and that's what this run deserves because he is going to be so. It's got Kofi Mania vibes. This run, I can already feel it. Where the crowd got him a new deal. The crowd could carry him all the way to a title, and I mean that because TK will put themselves in a bit of corner with this. That you need to be careful that you don't give the people too much power because they've already shown they're willing to re-sign him. What if they take him out a main event picture and the crowd hate it and they get lambasted and they put him back? Where do you draw the line?
Mm.
It's again, that's absolute top podcasting because you've gave me the perfect segue to the next point. But we saw it 10 years ago, longer than that now, with Daniel Bryan with the Rumble, and the WWE then spent the next 2 or 3 years just dealing with people getting pissed off at the Royal Rumble in that period of time because they had to just pull the plug and say we can't give you what you want every year. Gives me a perfect segue. The men's fatal 4-way was an elite level match. That was bloody brilliant in terms of what happened in the ring. But again, you're dealing with these guys that we've talked about already tonight that just know how to put on a show. Sammy wins. Ross, is Sammy the favourite for King of the Ring? We've talked about the number of heels at the top of the card. And the segue is, are we going to see a Daniel Bryan-esque story here where he finally climbs a mountain, beats Gunther at SummerSlam, and Burn It Down hits, and Rollins just takes it away?
I mean, now that you've said it, I'm kind of into it. I kind of like it. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this match. You know, bit of me, bit of chaos. Can't go wrong. I loved even just like the interferences. Braun Spear in one moment was even just looked so powerful because they actually didn't cut away this time. So clearly they learned. I think it would be nice to see someone who is a face be up there, and I think you could make a reasonable case that Sammy could win King of the Ring. It's the next parts for me where I'm just not sure yet. But if TKO are going to start listening to fans, I mean, all bets are off and you might get pushed to the moon. I guess.
It's difficult in it to see where the business decisions are being made because Triple H is the head of creative, so he ultimately calls the shots in terms of what happens. However, if you're responsible for a billion or multi-billion-dollar company, then you will have a say. So is it a TKO decision or is it a Triple H decision? As I seen you shaking your head just when I was asking that question, are you seeing this differently through King of the Ring?
It's not so much. I'm not saying that these are wrong because I do think Sammy probably is going to win it. Well, I don't know who this mystery entrant is, right? For the other fatal four-way.
It's not a mystery. It's very clearly vacant.
True, but we've not seen vacant for a while. To be fair, we haven't seen him for a while.
Finally,
looks a bit like Maven's silhouette, to be honest. But is it Ron? Is that who the mystery is? Is it Ron Killings or is it a return? Is it people suggesting it's Roman? I can't see them bringing Roman back for a fatal four-way.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I just this might be unpopular. Sami Zayn's not a world heavyweight champion material, and I just don't see it.
Wow.
And the reason being, they've had similar to LA Knight. They've had multiple chances to pull the trigger in this guy, and they've never done it. There's a reason for that, and I don't know what it is about Sami. Sami can do some of the best mic work and also some of the worst. He's a good talent in ring. I'm just not convinced he can carry a brand.
As much as I think if they're going to pull the trigger, they had to pull the trigger post chair shot to Roman because that was the peak. He's better as a heel, especially on the mic.
Is he ever going to be more over than he was during the? Is he ever going to be that over ever again?
No, is it? No, he's not. He's just not. And that's not always. It's not always what matters. Like Daniel Bryan was the most over person I've ever seen in the history of WWE, yet also was a phenomenal heel with a sort of Planets Champion gimmick. Sammy's a great heel, and maybe it should lead to that sort of descending into chaos type story But that would involve turning to the dark side, quote unquote, which we've seen with Cena and we've seen with other
Karrion
people.
Kross, he's been doing a lot of TV with Karrion Kross, so I'm not totally against Sammy winning King of the Ring. But if he wins the world title, it needs a cash in because
Yeah.
Sammy's not a world champion. I don't mind giving him his flowers and giving him the title, but he's not world champion material. It's the same as Jay. Jay's not a world champion either.
You almost need the cash in to then build Sammy to be an actual world champion, because you had it 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and you see you bottled it, but decided it was Cody's story.
Plans
You knock
changed.
the whole tower down and you need to build it back up, and you'll never build it as high as it was then.
And I'm going to stick with you, Daz, on the last point, because you've just mentioned them. The World Heavyweight Championship match, I actually really enjoyed the match, and I loved the finish with the super hold. Being like a right battle. I've just got my notes here. We've got a general discussion because you and I have both said the same thing. It feels like Gunther was the wrong guy, or the right guy, but just the wrong time. But there's just enough rumours, nothing confirmed. When you look at Jay's post-Raw promo that he cut in the ring, there's a few rumours that he's maybe been wanting an injury, and this was set up. The tag match was set up to allow him to have a strong showing but be protected, and then, or if he ended the tag match, but it seems to be set up to protect him, and then this was set up to then take the title off him in a good way. So, is Gunther, was it just the wrong time for Gunther, or is it that then true but acceptable because Jay might have had an injury and might be taking some time off?
I think if Jay is injured and he was always going to drop the title, I don't think there is a better interim pair of hands than Gunther. He is a wrestler, first and foremost, pure. That's what he is. You can put him against anybody. You could wrestle a broomstick, let's be honest. I'm excited to see what a program looks like with somebody on his level. And that person obviously is Seth Rollins. And I'm interested to see how that looks. I don't know what his interim program will be because obviously Seth has been booked with LA Knight for the foreseeable. So I'm interested to see who's first for Gunther.
Who's next?
Please, for the love of God, do not let it be Bill Goldberg.
Honestly, it should be Logan. It should be Logan Paul. Night of Champions.
I don't disagree, and to be honest, and this is where I'm going to be really critical. See if Jay's been wrestling with an injury, put the title on Logan Paul. I don't know why we don't. Even if it's interim, even if it's just a change in a guard.
Until Night of Champions, and then Gunther takes it off from there.
It's just, it gives you a chance to see what Logan's like in that world heavyweight picture. Could he change fan opinion? We've all been hating him since he came out. Regardless of what you think of the guy as a human being or as a YouTuber, as a wrestling talent, he's fucking insane. He's absolutely insane. And the moonsault,
he floated through the fucking air. And that's
the moonsault,
12, 15 feet.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And to be honest, he could have went another 5-10 feet. He really could have. So I don't think Gunther's the wrong guy. There's a golden opportunity to have given someone the Money in the Bank briefcase, let them cash it and hold it for 6 weeks.
But
or give it to Logan Paul.
If there's an injury, it makes more sense.
What I would have liked though is if he is injured, you could have just made King of the Ring for the world title, have him vacate the belt, and just have the King of the Ring tournament for the world title. Or the two finalists face off for the world title or something like that. At the PLE, it just seemed weird.
To be honest with you, have him vacate it and just have Rollins walk up with the briefcase. I just want to see in the vacant. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the briefcase and there's no champion,
we've done that before. Haven't we? We've done it with
Becky get pregnant.
Becky and Asuka.
But that wasn't the heel taking the title. That was Becky
presenting. No.
But there is at least precedent that they could
do
quirk in the rule book exists, Ross. you sent me this message this morning, so I want you to explain your thoughts, and I'm not saying disagree. Gunther's been a champion in the WWE for something ridiculous at 90% of his time between NXT UK, IC title, world champion. Does Triple H know how to book a non-champion Gunther?
It does make you wonder, because I mean, he hasn't done it, as evidenced by the stats. Is it just as simple as the guy just has the look and he has it in ring, and his promos in a second language are always to a decent standard, so it's just kind of, well, therefore he must have a belt, and then maybe it's just as simple as that. I'm not entirely sure. But when you see the match, like especially if the rumours of Jay being injured are true, like that was a 20-minute match that was what, at solid pace, and he dictated the pace for the full of that 20 minutes with a guy that's injured, if that's to be believed. And it was very, very, very good. So maybe it's just, yeah, I'll try and look optimistic on this one and say that the guy just maybe just deserves belts because he's that good. But you do wonder. You do have that little voice in the back of your head. You just don't know.
He's not the kind of guy that, and you've seen it when he dropped the title, he's not the kind of guy you can book every Monday night to wrestle. He's just, that's not his character, in the sense that he cannot take too many losses at the risk of killing the character.
Yeah.
And that's just the way he's been built through his Walter, through to Gunther days. He's just, it's really, really tricky because the big guy, historically, the big guys win absolutely nothing. The big guys are just that, they're big guys. Whereas now, the big guys book correctly, but when you don't have a title on them, I don't think it's that he doesn't know how to. He just doesn't want to book them. I think he would book them to take losses and put people over. I just think he knows the outcome of that, and he doesn't want it because it's a safe pair of hands.
He's literally been getting the last 6 weeks of you tapped out. Like that could have killed the character completely. I'll just sum up since Raw is my show. I thought it was a really good Monday Night Raw. I think they dialed back on Rollins a little bit, which helped. Not them criticising Rollins, but it just meant it didn't feel like we had the start, middle, and ending of Seth Rollins. The ending was Gunther looking strong. We dealt with the pyro. The opening was John Cena and CM Punk, which is always going to be good, with really good wrestling matches. And this is, since we started doing this pod, this is probably the sort of strongest Friday Monday we've had. It's a shame that Money in the Bank almost let it down right now. But this felt like more. So after WrestleMania, the Raw felt like we were setting up a continuation of stories. This felt more like a bit of a reset, and you can see the push to SummerSlam starting. I just hope it's not dragged out because of Night of Champions. And if they try and either try and rush stuff for Night of Champions, or they drag other stuff out to SummerSlam that should have concluded at NOC. Last order of business, we're just going to skip NXT Worlds Collide because there was so much going on this week. I think we'll be in another hour. Is the Golden Trouble, and I'm going to agree with Daz. You know, we've agreed we're not going to drag this out too much at the end of each episode. I'm going to agree with Daz and say that the production around the drone cam needs to be smarter. It doesn't help that the interference was a pain in the arse to watch, but you just showed guys lying there for 10 minutes waiting. They shouldn't be out that long. Again, we've talked every week, the suspending of belief, but it has to make sense in the universe. It didn't make sense to watch LA Knight sit there for 10 minutes and wait.
I'd agree. I can't really offer up an alternative viewpoint, and I think I'm going to make that unanimous.
Aye. So
that was first unanimous Golden Shovel?
No, I'm pretty sure we've been unanimous on Zelina Vega in the US Women's title for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, but order of business. Can I watch old matches on Friday nights instead of Smackdown?
Could have a wee segment.
That's
his favourite match from.
Yes.
Spin a wheel and it gives you a year. You've got to pick your favourite match for that year.
Yes. Keep your eyes peeled for that on TikTok. That's coming. Keep your eyes peeled for that.
That's a great idea. I'm genius. I've just remembered that I actually sent this the other day. That doesn't know that Zelina Vega's last 11 matches has been against one or two of the Secret Service and Chelsea Green. 11 straight matches. That is why we're so fucked off with SmackDown in that women's US title picture.
Yep.
It's done nothing. Julia just needs to get in there and start dropping people in their heads. That's it. Post Money in the Bank, we are full steam ahead for Night of Champions and Evolution. In fact, it's not even Night of Champions next, is it? There's something else. 12th of July. Evolution's this Sunday. Something in Atlanta. I'm going to check that because I think we've got.
Is it not a Saturday night main event? It's a Saturday night main event.
I think you're right, Des. I think you're correct.
June 28th. June 28th? That's next week. Why isn't Night of Champions next week? What the fuck is going on here? Week after? Gee, I've got fucking wait.
By the way, just for anybody watching this, June 28th is not next week.
No, it's 2 weeks away.
In case you watch this tomorrow and you're like, what?
What?
No, it's 2 weeks and Saturday. But yeah, that is only a couple of weeks away.
A couple of weeks away, and then Saturday night's mid-event, middle of July again. So we're on the road to Riyadh. We'll sign off the podcast there. Daz, let's go.
I enjoyed that as always, folks. Hope you guys did too.
Take it easy, and we'll see you guys next week.